Hello ladies who've joined already. Feel welcome to just jump in. You can have your cameras on or off, whatever you prefer. And maybe just for now, just mute your computers. So there should be a little button down the bottom left-hand side where you can mute if you haven't already. And we will get rocking and rolling in about 1 minute. So if you haven't already, grab yourself a glass of water, a glass of wine, or a cup of tea, or just something you can sip as we go through our Divine Feminine Oils class together. And if you've got oils already, grab one out that you can use to anoint yourself with and set the scene. And can someone let me know just in the chat box if they can hear me okay? Just like a yes or something like that would be awesome. Thank you. Awesome. We'll get going. All right. So welcome. Oh, I've lost you guys. Cool. Welcome to our Friday night online oils masterclass, new moon energy, which is super powerful. We're going to be talking a lot about the moon tonight. Thank you for spending your Friday evening with me. It's so nice that through the wonder of the internet, no matter where we are, we can still come together in community as women to talk about ways in which we can first identify and then connect with our feminine essence more, how we can support each other to do that, how we can tap into this collective rising of female consciousness, which is already happening. And we can talk about, why it's taken us so long, what our blocks are and how to move through them collectively. So I'm really excited to be hosting this session for you tonight. If you have questions as we go through, you can type them in the chat box. I probably won't see them until the end of our masterclass, but I will make sure to check them at the end just in case anyone has any questions. So before we go and jump in, I've prepared some beautiful slides, which I'm going to share with you guys, and I will make them available after the masterclass. So you don't feel like you need to take notes or anything like that. I'll make them all available to you afterwards, so you can just be super present for the next hour that we have together. So wherever you are, as I said at the start, cameras on, cameras off, doesn't really matter. And just mute your computer for now, just so that we can, any background noise will be filtered out of the replay and out of our session as we go through. Let's all, no matter where we are, I hope that you've worn something that helps you to feel like a feminine goddess. And that doesn't have to look any particular way. That could be your pajamas, cleansed face, makeup free. That might be, how you feel most beautiful. Or it could be any variation of anything at all. So there's no right or wrong. It's whatever speaks to you. And the intention for that, you'll see as we go through, so much of this work is about choice and intention and awareness. And it's tiny, simple, little consistent steps that we can make that can really make the difference in how much we're embodying this and allowing this into our everyday life. So let's all close our eyes down now. We're just going to take a minute. I know we're all mums, we're all working, we're all juggling a million different things. We've got fur babies, we've got all these things going on. So let's just try and take a moment to be really present here together, holding energetic space for each other for this next chunk of time we have together. So close down your eyes, take a big breath all the way down into your belly, and just notice this might be the first full conscious breath that you have taken all day. And that's okay if it is so, don't judge that. Just take that full breath in, puff out your belly. Full breath out, like you're emptying a glass of water. Let's take 2 more like that, just really conscious, full breaths. Breathing in. Breathing out, you can sigh out your mouth. Let your shoulders feel heavy. 1 more breath, breathing in. And a full breath out. And just in your own mind, you might have done this in yoga classes or similar, with your eyes still closed, if you feel comfortable, set a little intention. What's something that you're hoping to get out of tonight? Is there something that you would like answered? Is there some guidance that you are hoping to draw from? Are you just hoping to connect more with that divine feminine energy within you? Try and be specific with something. We're going to come back to this at the end of our class. You can open your eyes when you're ready. And if you've already gotten started with some oils, I think most people who are joining us are using doTERRA oils. But if not, it's not essential, no pun intended. But if you do have some essential oils or something, tactile like that, whether it's beautiful jewelry or a crystal or something, I invite you to grab that now. And if you haven't already applied some, let's just do that. So you can roll something on, have a little sniff. I'm using hope oil tonight for those doTERRA peeps. But as I said, not essential. Don't feel left out if you haven't started using oils yet. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys. I think that's going to be the best way. Bear with me for 1 second while I just do that. Okay, here we go. My desktop is quite busy at the moment. Can anyone relate? Okay. Let's go. All right. So this next hour, or a bit less than I've designed for you guys, has the intention of this. I want to guide you to connect with and tap into your feminine energy. I want to teach you how you can start to cycle with the moon. I'm talking about your reproductive and your menstrual cycle. How you can receive and allow from a place of feminine flow. How you can enhance sacred lovemaking. This is a juicy, juicy part, and it all flows together so nicely. And how to honor the phase of woman that you are in. We're going to be talking a lot about that. So introductions. My name's Jess. If you're on here, I'm sure that you probably already know me. We're connected in some way, but just in case if not, I'm a mama of 2 young girls, a single mama. I'm studying to become a midwife at the moment. I take photos of beautiful pregnant women, sometimes births and babies, and I'm a doTERRA essential oils leader, and I'm been on a big journey myself into my own divine feminine essence, especially over the last few years. So what I'm sharing with you tonight is from my own experience. So the first thing I want to say is that I'm not a doctor, as I've just explained to you guys. So anything that I share with you tonight isn't intended as medical advice. I'm not diagnosing or curing, treating, anything like that. But I just want to share, woman to woman, my journey into my own feminine awakening. And if there's things that resonate, I would love you to explore them for yourself. And you can leave anything that doesn't resonate. That is just perfectly fine. Like anything in life, right? So I mentioned that a lot of you, I think, are already using doTERRA, and that's perfect if you are, because they are sublime goddess tools. We're not going to talk a lot about doTERRA as such tonight, because I feel that we're all kind of amongst that crowd. But it's not, essential oils are not a new anointment for goddesses and women, and they carry a plethora of benefits: emotional, physical, spiritual, energetic. They give us a really quick access into different emotional, mental, spiritual states using our olfactory system, which is through our nose and our sense of smell, and that activates in our limbic system in our brain, which is our emotional center. So that's why smells are so connected to feelings, and we can really use that through the science of aromatherapy to be harnessing that, so we can be evoking different emotional states and feelings simply through the sense of smell. It's very science-based, and it's very magical at the same time, which you don't often find. So straight off the bat, I wanted to offer this to you. And as I said, you don't need to take notes. I will make them available after our masterclass together. But let's just get it out there. The most feminine oils that you can use if you're wanting to tap into a feminine space are these. So clary sage is probably one of the most powerful essential oils for women for extreme hormone balance. Clary sage is the oil of the moon, and we're going to talk about how connected with the moon we are as women. It's also a uterine tonic, so it's very powerful for birthing mamas, not appropriate for pregnant mamas. Jasmine is a really beautiful aphrodisiac and uterine stimulant, which can be helpful in certain situations. Ylang ylang, the oil of the inner child. This is a big one for deep healing, if any of you are familiar with the words mother wound. So collectively as women, we carry this collective pain known as the mother wound, where we felt unloved and judged and abandoned often by our own mothers, and we carry this as an energetic collective field all together. So ylang ylang is beautiful for working with our inner child to be releasing those deep subconscious and collective traumas. Rose, another powerful aphrodisiac, the oil of love and the oil of the maiden phase. We're going to be talking about these phases as well. Geranium is the oil of the mother. It's got a really strong goddess energy, a reproductive energy and nurturing energy. Patchouli is the oil of the crone, so it's a very wise, all-knowing oil. It's very attached to spirituality. It's like a soft hug. Lavender, the oil of peace and reassurance. Bergamot, the oil of self-love and inspiration. That's a yummy one. It's a citrus. Melissa is the oil of balance, and it heightens femininity. Neroli, the oil of feminine touch. Whisper, which is a doTERRA blend, is a potent blend, including vanilla, and it's got some sandalwood in there to balance, and a few other things. Rose, it's a strong aphrodisiac and a very feminine oil blend. And Clary Calm, which contains clary sage, but it also includes Vitex, which we'll speak about. That is doTERRA's women's monthly blend, super potent for bringing hormonal balance and supporting the body to come into its own hormonal balance. So straight off the bat, they're the oils that you guys are going to want to be most likely working with as you go on this feminine journey of awakening and calling more on your own divine feminine energy. So let's frame this. What is the divine feminine? It's a bit of a buzzword, right, at the moment. Everyone's talking about goddesses and femininity, and there's this beautiful new wave of feminine empowerment, which I am so thrilled about and so loving seeing. But let's get specific. So the divine feminine, if you've heard that phrase and you have no idea what it means, or it sounds way too airy-fairy, it is and it isn't, right? So within us, we all have the divine feminine energy and we all have the divine masculine energy, and it's a beautiful, delicate balance. So it's this inner vibrational current within each of us, and it is the source of all creation. Without the feminine, there is no life. Feminine brings birth, it brings creation itself. So all of life cycles through and cycles because of the divine feminine existence. So properties of the divine feminine, as you can see that I've written here, soft, flowing, allowing, sensual, can be sexual, absolutely, creative and magnetic in nature. It's yin in nature, if you've heard of the phrase yin and yang, which of course you have. It's an energetic entity in itself. The goddess energy, the mother energy, the crone energy, it's something that feels divine in nature, that feels magical. It's something we can tap into and use for guidance. So when we are coming from this place of embodying all of this, we are living then with ease and flow and a poised sense of power. It's not a weakness. It is an incredible strength and an incredible magnetism. So I mentioned briefly about the divine feminine and the divine masculine in this beautiful, delicate balance. So we have both of these energies within us, and that is just perfect. We cannot have a human soul or a human body that only has divine feminine, not divine masculine. But where we run into difficulty or feeling unbalanced is when we start to operate in too much, either too feminine or too masculine, and each of these energies have their own divine purpose within us. So the masculine energy in us grounds and drives, it produces, it actions things, it completes things, it focuses us, and it directs the course of our life. It is a more head-centered energy than the feminine, which is a more heart-centered energy just by nature. And the key, as I've written here, is being not only feminine, but balancing the masculine when it isn't required. So times when we would be calling on this masculine energy within us is if we're working, if we're producing, if we're trying to write a book, or we are cleaning our house, or whatever it may be. If we're trying to complete a task, if we're trying to decide on a course or direction and a course of action to take, we're drawing on that masculine energy. But if we stay in that masculine energy, as you'll see on the following slides, it can lead us to feel constricted and unbalanced, and it can affect not only our internal feeling, but it can make us feel a little bit lost. It can make us feel a little bit unattractive, strangely enough, and it can affect absolutely the relationships, especially our intimate relationships and partnerships. And we can just feel out of balance. We can feel constricted. So, but if we are feeling like we're wanting to, focus and complete and drive and all those things that I mentioned, these are the oils that we can call upon to support us in doing those things. So I won't read through every single one like I did with the feminine oils, because we are focusing more on connecting with and diving into our femininity. But this is important to know as well, because it is a balance, and it's not about eliminating masculine, but simply balancing it. So if you are, wanting to invoke more feelings of femininity within you, these are oils which you probably would want to avoid at that point in time, to be honest. But if you're feeling, a bit spacey and scattered and like you're needing to focus, or you're feeling anxious, which is a very feminine imbalance. Depression is a very masculine imbalance. And, if we're feeling these things, and these oils can be incredibly helpful for grounding us back into that balanced state. So on here, I've written some signs that your feminine is out of balance, but it's important to talk about why this happens. So this isn't necessarily just that we're doing too much. Often there is deep subconscious blocks which are stopping us from truly liberating our femininity. So, and generally there's three things it's related to, which I'm going to explain to you guys, but we're talking about things like self-protection, low self-esteem, worthiness issues, and trust issues, essentially. So these can stem from early childhood, and in fact they do. I'll explain to you guys about how this started from the beginning of your life, and even lives before, which I believe, experience traumas in this life and ingrained beliefs and stories that we tell ourselves. So sometimes we might not even be aware that we are out of balance and we're too much in our masculine, but here's some surefire ways that your body is telling you that this is what's going on. So any repetitive feelings of tension in your body and in your mind, tightness and rigidity, depletion, exhaustion, nervous system overload where you just feel overstimulated and fried, feeling overwhelmed. If you are in any way feeling unattractive, and it has absolutely nothing to do with what your physical body looks like at all. If you're feeling unattractive, then your feminine is out of balance. Non-acceptance of our bodies, being overly critical of ourselves and of others, it's always a mirror, right? And loud judgmental voices in our heads, and what I like to describe as like a cortisol buzz. So if you've been sitting in front of the computer for too long and you just feel yucky in your body, that is your feminine out of balance. So our body is so magical in the ways that it communicates to us, and these are some of the ways that tell us loud and clear that, hey, you would really benefit from slipping back into feminine mode. And, do you really need to be driving and being so masculine right now? Or can you achieve the same thing in a softer, more allowing, more receiving, more magnetic way? The answer is usually almost always yes. So I mentioned that there's three main unconscious beliefs which drive us to be blocking our feminine. And basically, we have these blocks because there's some reason why our beautiful bodies and minds and souls believe that it is unsafe in that moment for us to fully express our femininity and to be in our femininity. So there's some reason why we're not. It's not even necessarily a sabotage thing. It's actually our beautiful bodies, minds, and souls protecting us from perceived threats, which may or may not be real. So these three blocks stem from these are the most common ones: abuse. So past sexual abuse or trauma, verbal or emotional abuse. So if we have been abused in any way, and not just physically, but emotionally or psychologically, then if we are expressing our most feminine essence, that feels unsafe because it attracts masculine energy. It attracts masculine attention. So if we're not wanting to be attracting masculine attention because we believe that that is a threat because of past abuse or trauma, then we are going to subconsciously, without even thinking about it, feel unsafe to be feminine. So there's an unconscious belief pattern here. I am safer if I am unattractive, or I am safer if I am more masculine. Now, I just want to mention here that I'm speaking purely about masculinity and femininity, and this has nothing to do with gender. This can be, this can be a man, maybe in a homosexual relationship, who embodies more of the feminine and his partner embodies more of the masculine. Or it could be two women and one, we'll talk more about polarity. There must be this equal balance in relationships for attraction to occur. So please don't take this as that I'm only talking about women, because I'm absolutely not. These energies have nothing to do with our physical genders. It just so happens to be that women generally speaking, but not always, tend to be more embodying of the feminine energy, and men tend to be generally more embodying of masculine energy. But absolutely there are variations, and that is perfectly fine. So the second block stems from self-esteem issues. So feeling unworthy to be beautiful. So if growing up, you started to notice maybe that if you shine too bright, it made other people feel uncomfortable, or it made other people feel small, or it made other people feel bad about themselves, then very, very early you would have learned to start to dim your own light in a million different ways. And within that light is also dimming your own femininity, your own goddess energy, to not make other people who aren't embodying that feel uncomfortable. So we've got an unconscious belief and story here, a thought pattern. I am safer if I don't make others feel uncomfortable around me. That's a big one. And that's a big one to overcome. The third one is trust issues. So if we have been open and vulnerable and feminine and embodying our goddess energy, and we have been hurt, maybe by the masculine or maybe by another feminine energy, then it doesn't feel safe to be open anymore. We can't trust that by being open and feminine that we won't be damaged. So, and in our modern society, in the pressure to be a modern woman, there's this ego wanting to prove that I can do it all. I can be the mother. I can be the worker. I can be the provider. I can be the nurturer. I can do everything, and I do everything, and I don't rely on anybody else because I can just do it all myself. I buy my own house, whatever it may be. Now, I'm not saying that that's wrong, but I'm saying that we're starting to draw on more masculine energies to be able to do that full plethora of everything, which of course women can do. But if we can be mindful of what energy am I operating from here? Am I being driving and forceful, or can I be more open and soft here? So the thought pattern here, I'm safer if I am self-reliant and independent, and no one can hurt me or let me down if I only rely on myself. So these are big ingrained thought patterns and beliefs which ultimately block us from embodying our supreme femininity and goddess essence and energy. So what can we do about this? Awareness, absolutely, just of these things, just knowing this about yourself and identifying where maybe your own individual blocks may be. There could be others, but they're the most common ones. Just that often is enough to shift a lot. But in the moment, if you notice those tight, rigid, cortisol-y, judging yourself, feeling unattractive, those signs that you are not embodying your true feminine essence and energy, then there's 4 really simple steps that I like to take that work really well for me. I thought I would share with you guys. So the first is identifying with compassion. So notice that you're feeling unbalanced, and we don't have to label it as good or bad. It's nothing like that. It's just unbalanced. And that's just what it is. There's no judgment around that. And giving yourself a moment to be with that feeling. The second thing that we move then into is the process of self-inquiry. Always, always, always. In yoga, in life, in growth, self-inquiry is the key to freedom. So through self-inquiry, knowing that we are doing these things because our subconscious thinks it's making us safe. It's actually doing a beautiful thing trying to protect us. But we can just simply inquire, why am I feeling unsafe to be open right now? Why am I feeling unsafe to be feminine and soft? And is there a true threat? Or could I let that go and operate from my intention, which is to be in my feminine flow? So then the next step is to choose and embody. So those 2 steps, identifying and self-inquiry, questioning the thought, when it comes into the mind, questioning, is that true? Is that true, or could I make a different choice in this moment? Usually those two things are enough for a massive vibrational shift, but it is nourishing and supportive to call on a goddess tool. So I call goddess tools anything that is a tactile reminder. So I'm talking about your feminine essential oils. That is a goddess tool. I'm talking about putting on some lip balm. That, I don't know why, but just that for me is like a feminine act of self-love. I know it probably sounds silly, but that works for me. Putting on some music and just dancing. You know, how often do we allow our body to move in a fluid and feminine way? You know, we feel self-conscious, or we feel embarrassed, or we feel like attention seeking. That's a big one. That's that, you know, not wanting to make others feel small, showing up in a big way. Changing your outfit. You know, if you look in the mirror and you notice that you're wearing something that doesn't make you feel like a goddess, then get changed. And maybe give that outfit to Lifeline and just fill your closet with things that make you feel beautiful. Shop at op shops. That's what I do. Walking barefoot outside, connecting with nature. Nature is so ingrained with the feminine. And one other thing that I didn't write on here, but connecting with the moon. So bathing your skin in moonlight is super powerful for tapping into your feminine. And then the last step, so that we can be rewiring these brain patterns, is to reinforce. So I fully believe the statement, you become what you think about. So your repetitive thoughts create repetitive feelings, create repetitive actions, creates your life. So if we can start with our thoughts, so affirmations are so powerful for this. So just affirming in your mind, you know, after you've made the choice to operate from femininity, I am a divine feminine goddess. It is safe for me to be open and allow. I flow with life and I open my heart. So simple, just something that speaks to you like that. So I kind of talked a bit about this just then, but self-consciousness, fear and doubt limit our ability to open and allow. So be mindful of the energies around you. It is easier to open around some people and in some places than in others. So support yourself. Support yourself with your goddess tools in environments where it feels difficult to open, in environments where it doesn't feel totally safe to be feminine and expressive and sensual and magnetic and all of those things. Support yourself with your tactile reminders and your affirmations and choose it. And the more, it's like a muscle, the more that we choose this, the more that this just becomes our everyday nature that we operate from. So our environment, breath, so huge. Breathe into your belly, take in the full breath, take in life and receive. That is very feminine, to receive. Movement, not for the purpose of shrinking our bodies to fit looking a certain way, but simply when we move our body, we become connected to our body. And the more connected we are to our body, the better for intuitive living and living from feminine essence. It's about body connection. Meditation, super powerful. So a nice little one I like to do it is imagine my heart as a flame, and each breath that I take in and out is fanning this ever-glowing, growing, blossoming flame of my heart. It's a nice simple one. And sacred sexual self-love. Yes, I am talking about masturbation. It's not a dirty word. It can be a sacred act of self-love to help us to open and allow. We're going to talk more about sex and lovemaking towards the end of our little session together. But whether we are open and tapped into our divine feminine or closed is simply a choice. That's all it is, my beautiful goddesses. It's just a choice in each and every moment. And the beauty about that is that we can choose it anytime we need. If we notice that we're out of balance, we can simply choose to be in balance. It is mind creation. So take a little moment, take a little sip, take a breath in. This is where we're heading. So we've talked about what is feminine, what is divine feminine oils, right? Let's talk about some really powerful connections now. Now I want to start to talk about the phases of our life and the moon. And this is where we're heading. We're heading into operating from our heart. So the stages of woman. So like all great spiritual teachings, there are three. Three is a number that shows up all the time in symbolism. So this tri-nature of woman is called the triple goddess, and it is the maiden, the mother, and the crone. So I've written it all here that you guys can see. So when we're in our maiden phase of life, which is from when we are born to about our 20s, a bit sooner, pre-reproductive years, pre-baby making years, and we transition from maiden to mother as we start to menstruate. So this time of our life represents enchantment, inceptions, new beginnings, youth, enthusiasm, the virgin who has not yet awakened. So it's like this energy of like hope and inspiration. So these are life cycles, but they are also monthly cycles, which I will talk to you guys about next. Then we enter into the mother phase, and this doesn't necessarily mean being a biological mother. It is just the energy that we embody during this phase of our life. From our 20s to about our 40s, our reproductive years, it represents abundance, fullness, growth, fertility, sexuality, stability. The color is green and the feeling is fullness. And then we move into the crone phase of our life, which is about our 40s, a bit later, until we die. And this is when we truly embody the wise woman, the sage. We are absolutely magnetic in this period. There is an element of darkness because in this phase it is said that we are dying and we are leaving our gifts with the world. So we're teaching. There's endings. There's a lot of letting go in this phase before our eventual death. So these are the stages of being a woman. So identify now, I would say that most of us would probably be in our mother phase. Maybe a few goddesses in their crone phase of life. And when we're talking about femininity, we can't talk about this, and we can't talk about embodying this and balancing this without talking about the ways in which we collectively suppress this in each other and in ourselves, and the ways in which we allow our feminine essence to be suppressed right from the get-go. So it absolutely happens through repetitive social and cultural norms. Women are taught from birth to feel shame for expression of sexuality and vulnerability. Now, this is changing in certain pockets of consciousness and awareness, which is so, so beautiful. But on a larger scale, this is still absolutely true. So from childhood, we smack and we shame kids for emotions, difficult emotions. Or, we tell boys not to cry, we tell girls not to cry. Crying is seen as weakness, and, we're taught very early to put on this facade of always being okay and disconnecting from our emotions. And our emotions are big drivers and indications for how we're feeling, how safe and how secure we're feeling from moment to moment. So we're taught very early to disconnect from our intuition, essentially. There is a lot of abandonment from father figures, mother wounds. It's massive. It starts right from the beginning. Adolescence, we come into this world of contraception, hormonal contraception and mechanical contraception, things like the pill, the IUD, copper coils, injections, implanon, the rods in your arm, I think that's implanon, all of these kind of things, which, girls are put on the pill from the age of 11 nowadays because their periods are irregular. Our hormonal cycle has just begun. It's just finding its balance, and we suppress it immediately. Or because our hormones are kind of all over the place and we're experiencing acne. That's another common reason that girls, really young girls, are starting to take the pill or use other forms of hormonal suppression. So whether you take the pill or you don't, or whether you use contraception or you don't, is an absolutely individual personal choice. And I'm not here to judge, but I do want to tell you the truth about this, that when you are using these things, your body is no longer cycling naturally. It's no longer a physiological process. It's no longer what your body just naturally does. We're overriding it. We're suppressing it. We are no longer connected with the cycles of the moon or the cycles of the tides when we're using hormonal and mechanical forms of contraception. And there are alternatives. So it's just something to think about. It's not something to feel any self-judgment or shame about. And there is a lot of support out there for transitioning off this kind of stuff, because your body kind of, it takes a while to come back into its natural balance again when we have been using these things. Some women have never naturally ovulated, menstruated, gone through their physiological hormonal cycle because they've been on the pill from the get-go. There's a lot of shame over menstruation. It's something we don't talk about. We hide it. It's dirty and unclean and kind of yucky. And we're shamed for sexual behavior right from adolescence. In our childbearing years, those of you who know that I'm studying to be a midwife know I'm extremely passionate and letting go of judgment around this. But in our childbearing years, there's huge abuse and disempowerment around childbirth. Women are taught that their bodies cannot be trusted, and that birth is dangerous and best managed by a medical professional. Something that our bodies were born to do, we are so undermined and shamed for, essentially. So this total undermining of a woman's ability to birth unassisted and naturally, if that's what she chooses, it just runs rampant through the whole birth industry, especially in Australia. Other parts of the world, it is better, like New Zealand and the UK. There's more trust of women's bodies. So this is taught to us through the media, stories, other women. We tell each other horror stories of things that happened, but we leave out the details that oftentimes these horror stories that happened may have been caused by the interventions which we collectively allow. So I won't go too much about, this is a whole nother topic for another night, but this is absolutely a suppression of our feminine God essence and empowerment. Abuse, so sexual objectification and imagery, equal rights for women, expectations. And to be a respected woman in our modern society, you're required to be driven now by masculine behaviors, to be seen as equal in every way. And of course, we always are equal. That doesn't mean that our behaviors need to be the same. But to be respected, especially in the workforce, we need to be wearing our masculine pants and driving and action and be so heavily in that energy dominance, which can be very imbalancing. And sexuality. So there's the porn industry, rape. Even worse than that, I feel, is the amount of unfulfilled and unconnected sexual relationships that we are all accepting and participating in. Someone's not on mute, and I love you, but if you guys could just quickly check, that'd be great. And an overwhelming fear of being seen as dirty and unclean, that women suppress our basic primal urges. So we don't communicate what we need or what we want because we're afraid of being seen as sluts. And that ripples over to being submissive and being unfulfilled, essentially, because, of course, in every woman, there is a sexual woman, as well as a sensual woman, as well as a nurturing woman, as well as every angle of femininity. But absolutely, the sexuality is there, and to deny it and suppress it leaves us unfulfilled and unwhole. So talking about happy hormones, I mentioned I had a bit of a rant about the pill and copper coil and the marina, and this stuff that I'm mentioning here is not medical advice, but do your own searching. Have a chat with your own naturopaths or doctors or whoever you go to for guidance, your own intuition. I find it interesting that a lot of us women take the pill and accept a whole host of side effects and dangers, well known, well studied. And even though there is in existence a male contraceptive pill, it is seen to have too many side effects for men. But that's acceptable for women, but not for men. Now, I'm in no way bashing men, but it's just a question that's interesting to ask. Why do we accept this for ourselves? Why do we choose this for ourselves? Why don't we demand more for each other and for ourselves? The big thing about hormonal birth control as well, if we're wanting to embody our feminine energy and balance our hormones, essentially that's what we're talking about in this part. Pheromones, if you guys are familiar with, which are hormonal offshoots, and these are the ways in which we attract and are attracted to our mates or our relationship partners, our life partners. And there's a study, I should have, if anyone's interested for any of the references and science behind anything that I've posted tonight, I can absolutely provide that after. But there's a great well-known study talking about that our pheromones while we're on the pill are very different to our pheromones when we're off the pill, which could very well mean that who we're attracted to when we're on the pill could be completely different to who we're attracted to and attracting when we're off the pill. So it's just another example of that we're not living physiologically in alignment with our true feminine energy when we're using these things. Diet and stress. So there's this big swing towards low fat everything, but we actually need fat and saturated fat in quite decent quantities to be producing hormones, healthy hormones. Now, this might be a bit controversial. I know I have quite a few vegan and vegetarian friends. I have been vegan and vegetarian myself. So I put this in here purely because I have never been personally more hormonally imbalanced than when I was in that phase of my life. And if you're experiencing that and that's what your diet is like, it might be worth looking at. But I do also know that a lot of people find hormonal balance down that avenue. So this is just purely from my own personal experience. But anything that is mimicking or changing our hormones, high sugar, high grain intake, soy products, you guys, do some searching about that. If we're seeing an influx of things like polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis, acne and skin conditions, these things have a big impact on these major hormones which govern absolutely everything about us as women. So let's look at this stuff. Lifestyle toxins, so things like phthalates and plastics and fragrance and BPA and heavy metals and carcinogens, these are all endocrine disruptors, which what that means is they mimic or suppress certain hormones in your body. So we've got other influences coming in, if we're not then putting in synthetic hormones with the pill and that kind of thing. So all of this kind of stuff, we need to take a holistic approach. And I know it can feel overwhelming. So if we can just pick one thing. Another big thing is anything that you put on your body. So skincare and hair care and body care, washing powders, perfumes are a big one. If you can make it yourself, it's always best, or use a trusted source, so organic and fragrance-free. A lot of you guys are in the doTERRA camp, so I know that you're probably all over this, but for anyone who's not, it's worth mentioning. These are the hidden exposures that are imbalancing our hormones daily. The stuff we're slathering in, our skin doesn't have a filter. We don't have a liver in our skin. What we put in our skin goes straight into our bloodstream. So, just a couple of more ideas to explore about this. Clary Sage Essential Oil, which I mentioned. If anyone is struggling with hormonal imbalance, you will want to talk to someone that you trust or do your own searching. But this is hugely supportive of the female hormonal profile. So look into that oil if you haven't already. Vitex. So Vitex or chaste tree, it's also called Agnus cactus from memory, is a wonder herb for women. Go and talk to your health food store about it. This beautiful herb helps to bring our reproductive cycles in line with the moon. Don't ask me how, it's just magical. It's very balancing for the female system. So a strong hormone balancer. doTERRA include Vitex in their women's monthly blend called Clary Calm. It's a roller. If you don't have that one, it is absolutely magical. I encourage you, add that to your next LRP order. It's wonderful for helping relieving discomfort during menstruation and also for balancing hormones just any old time. And reducing stress and anxiety. So too much cortisol imbalances our hormones. We know this, right? Too much coffee, too much exercise, too much stress, not sleeping properly. So we need to address these things as well to have perfect hormonal balance. So use your oils that are supportive of this, that are going to help you sleep better and de-stress and let go and get out of your head. So think lavender and clary sage, vetiver, frankincense, your serenity or lavender peace, depending on where in the world you are. The blend and your gel caps are beautiful for having a more restful night's sleep, which is going to balance your hormones. And Whisper blend is also beautiful. That's the feminine blend I mentioned that's also an aphrodisiac. And it kind of smells a little bit like that angel perfume. So it's a beautiful replacement for any kind of toxic perfumes. So I've mentioned the moon a few times, and it is so worth, you guys, knowing what the moon is doing and knowing what your body is doing and noticing this connection. It is scary and magical and so beautiful, and you feel so tapped into something bigger than yourself when you notice that you are starting to cycle with the moon. So I want to talk about that, and I want to tell you how to support your body to get back into balance. So as each woman journeys through her respective cycles, so does the moon. So the moon renews every month, every 28 days, just like the feminine womb. We're shedding roughly every 28 days. When in balance, a woman will cycle with the moon. So we either will ovulate or we will menstruate on or around the new or full moon. It is freaky. So, i.e., ovulating on the new moon, which would be today, and menstruating on the full moon in 2 weeks' time. So a typical fertility pattern of a woman who is in hormonal balance, who menstruates on the new moon and ovulates on the full moon, would look like this. So on the new moon today, she would be menstruating right now. On or around now, give or take a couple of days. So the new moon, which is also known as the dark moon, when the moon is at its smallest, we're letting go. It's a low, downward moving energy. This is a beautiful time to set intentions for this new, fresh phase that is coming. Then after the new moon, so after today, we're going to start heading into what is called the waxing moon. So this is as the moon is getting fuller. So if you think about what the moon is representing, the moon is getting fuller. We are getting fuller and more alive and more blossomed. So our estrogen levels are rising in this time. We gain strength, fluidity, and power and inspiration. This is a great time for new projects. This is a great time if you have to do a presentation at work. This is a great time if you're writing a book. This is a great time for creation. It's a great time to be active, to be more active. You know, if you are moving a body, this is a great time. It's not such a great time around new moon when you're menstruating. That's the time when you want to be resting and going inwards. And then we head into the beautiful goddess full moon time, which is a woman on this menstruation cycle would be ovulating and at her peak fertility at the full moon. So that old saying that women go a little bit crazy on the full moon, because traditionally they were all ovulating and all having these raging libidos needing to be fulfilled by their men or their women, depending on which way their personal preference was. So this is a great time for self-expression, maximum feminine essence. If you are trying to have a baby, this is the time to be making love. If you ovulate on or around the full moon, this is the best time to fall pregnant. If you are not wanting to fall pregnant, this is the time when you want to avoid lovemaking or use a barrier method around this time. So something which I'm going to post in the group after, which I haven't talked about because it isn't my method, is cervical mucus checking, natural family planning, the Billings method. It's called any of those things where you can tell through signs in your body where you are at in your cycle. So during ovulation, you will notice that you secrete a cervical mucus, which is slippery and wet. It may be egg white consistency. So you can check that by inserting your fingers into your vagina and seeing what the consistency of your cervical mucus is like. Super simple. You know, if anyone is feeling grossed out by that thought of, you know, that's okay. that just is what it is. That kind of feeling and thinking that is wrong or dirty has been ingrained into you since birth. So don't feel any judgment or shame over that, but I invite you to get to know your own body. It's very empowering. And then after the full moon, we head into this period of the waning moon, when the moon starts to head back down towards the new moon again, and then we start the cycle again. So during the waning moon, our estrogen levels are falling. You will probably notice a big decrease in your libido around this time. This is normal. This doesn't mean that you should break up with your partner. This doesn't mean that you're no longer attracted to them. This doesn't mean that doom and gloom that we typically feel around this time, otherwise known as premenstrual syndrome, PMS, that's what's happening. Our estrogen levels are falling. Our body is wanting us to start to withdraw back into ourselves. There's nothing wrong with these thoughts and feelings of wanting to withdraw and not feeling like we want to be sexual or sharing ourselves. It's normal to feel tired. It's normal to feel like you want to rest in this time. It is normal. And if we know what is happening, we can honor the cycle that we're in, where we're at. So cycling with Mother Moon, how do we do this? If your hormones are completely out of whack and maybe you haven't had a period in a long time, or maybe you're on the pill and now you're thinking that you might, maybe want to be coming off that so you can start to tap more into this stuff. The first step is to get to know your body, number one. So charting where you're at in your cycle, again in the group I will post more about how you can do that. You can track it in a spreadsheet, you can write it in your diary. There's lots of great apps. I use one on my phone called Fertility Friend. It's free, and I just kind of track in there what's going on with my body each day. I put in what my cervical mucus is doing. I track when I get my period, and it lets me know where I'm at in my cycle. It's brilliant. Over time, you'll start to see these very predictable patterns in your cycle and with what's going on with the moon. Typically, your libido, as I mentioned, is highest during and around ovulation, and you may feel little or no libido during your waning or latent phase and during menstruation. You can help your partner to understand this, and you can help yourself to understand this. There's nothing wrong. This is normal. During menstruation, if you can avoid putting anything toxic inside yourself, I highly encourage you to do that. So if you use tampons, please choose organic tampons that are free from dyes and perfumes. They're not the kind of things that you're wanting to be putting in your sacred vagina. You could try a moon cup, which I use. They're brilliant. They take a little bit of getting used to. If you're not used to touching your own blood, again, this disconnection and that it's dirty and not something to be celebrated, it could be confronting at first. So maybe you could use organic pads instead, or period underwear. Now they have this great period underwear, which I haven't tried, but apparently it's fabulous. And celebrate your moon time. Let yourself rest. Let yourself have a day in bed if you possibly can. Don't schedule any big appointments or meetings or deadlines when you're menstruating, because you're not going to feel like doing it. The other way that is really powerful for helping your body cycle with Mother Moon, so I mentioned the herbs Vitex, look into that, look into clary sage as well. But moonlight, it's exposure. So if you are completely out of balance or you just want to start to cycle with the moon, around the full moon, sleep with your skin exposed to full moon moonlight. So quite simply, open your curtains. Let the moonlight come onto your skin if you possibly can for 3 days. So the day before the full moon, the day of the full moon, and the day after. And then you sleep in total darkness for the remainder of the month. Now this generally takes anywhere, depending on where your hormones are at, 3 to 6 months to start to cycle. And you'll see your cycles starting to change as you do this and as you start to balance your hormones. So it's not that you have to do this forever, but you might like to. Getting this moonlight on the skin. We bathe in the sun and we get the nutrients, but we can bathe in the moon too and get the hormonal benefits, especially as women. So now I want to come to the part where we talk about relationship polarity. I mentioned at the start this divine pull between masculine and feminine. So polarity, which is opposites, like two ends of a magnet, masculine and feminine, is the basis of attraction. There is no attraction. There is no attraction without polarity between the masculine and feminine. So if you maybe have been in a relationship for a while and there was attraction at the start and now it's started to wane, the first thing I encourage you to do is look at what role you are playing. Are you embodying your feminine, or have you stepped into the masculine role? And there's two of you trying to take up this masculine role, and there's no room for polarity or attraction in that because there's two masculine energies. Can you, or can your partner, depending on what your preference is, step back and create polarity again? Can you embody the feminine more? Can your partner embody the masculine more? And can you notice that polarity and attraction be reignited? Powerful. Like does not attract like in this area. The more you embody the feminine, the more space you allow your partner to embody the masculine. If you want your partner to be more masculine, you need to embody more femininity. If you are feeling unattracted or frustrated, ask yourself, are you feeling the masculine role, as I already said? If we're not embodying the feminine, then we are emasculating our partner. This might be a bit controversial for some people. Stay with me. Take what works, leave the rest. It's perfectly balanced, as I've said before. It's not about genders. You can be a woman embodying more masculine, and your partner can be a man embodying more feminine. That is still a balanced relationship where attraction and polarity occurs. If you're a more driven woman, a more masculine woman just by nature, you will require your partner to be more feminine in nature. Otherwise, that attraction will not be there. Love making. Let's talk about it. Why don't we talk about this more? Why don't we learn about this? Certainly. But sexual expression is the total union between the masculine and feminine. It is when we become one. We become whole in that way. And it is the spark from which life is created. We all know that. It's where we all came from. So to enhance love making, it is a soul journey that ideally both you and the person you are making love with are open to. So self-acceptance. So a sexual partner can only love you as deeply as you allow them to. That's worth saying again. A sexual partner can only love you as deeply as you allow them to. So if you are someone who is emotionally unavailable in yourself, and I've grown through that, then it'll be very difficult to allow yourself to receive love of the highest and most purest order. It will feel uncomfortable. It will feel icky. You will want to close down. Self-acceptance. A sexual partner can only love you as deeply as you allow them to. Letting down guards and working through protections. This is a personal development journey in that way. Connection. A woman will struggle to open if she feels unsafe. That's a given. Unseen, or her love tank has not been fueled emotionally by her partner, probably that day. So lovemaking starts in the relationship. It doesn't start in the bedroom. It starts with this connection between a man and woman, or a man and man, or a woman and a woman, whatever your preference is. So choosing where you can a partner who is willing to open you further than you can open yourself alone. That is what a good lovemaking partnership will do. Timing. Accepting that we are not going to feel peak libido at all stages of the month because, as we've just talked about, we have natural, beautiful goddess hormonal cycles that are taking place we are tapping into. So if we're working on our hormonal health and balance for optimum libido, it will be natural that our libido will wax and wane as we go through our cycle. So timing lovemaking, communicating this to our partners. So, and communication, I go on to say, great sexual connection requires intense vulnerability. Great sexual connection requires intense vulnerability. Now, you might disagree with that. You might have had intense physical connection with someone that you've never met before. And you might be saying, well, that's not true. You know, I've experienced great sex. But great sex that I'm talking about, soulful sex, where you are truly seen and held and loved and opened to the depths of your own femininity by another person, doesn't generally happen in those situations. Now, it absolutely could if you were both open to it and you were both on this journey of awakening and making love from a place of soul. I've also heard it be called junk food sex, you know, where we're just physically there, but we're in our head. We're not really present. We're not really there to show up and serve the person that we're making love with. We're not making eye contact. We're just kind of going through the motions. Now, this can happen in one-night stands, or it can happen in committed relationships. When we lose that communication, I'm not talking about verbally, I'm talking about when we lose that communication between our bodies, when we lose that communication between our chakras and our souls, when we lose the ability to gaze into each other's eyes and make love from a place of connection and opening rather than just, you know, thrusting and physical action, you know, we lose the ability to have soulful, connected sex, which allows us to experience total union. So I don't know if that helps or stirs up some ideas for conversation that you can have with your partner. But ultimately, you know, this is what they say, the most at peace, the most divine, that feeling of orgasmic nature. And it is a whole new level when we can make love from this place. So starting to embody this more and more in our life. We're almost done. I know we've gone a bit over time, but we started a bit late. We need to be regularly bringing in rituals that are reminding us, tactile reminders. So using your goddess tools, your essential oils, your crystals, your oracle cards, which I'm going to pull one for our collective group at the end of class, dancing, connecting with nature, embodying, you know, that femininity through bathing in moonlight, cooking with love, you know, whatever it is for you, having those goddess tools which tap you back into that feeling of flow. You know, if you have a man or if you have a woman, you know, putting on some sensual music, some beautiful music, and can you allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to dance freely, even if feelings of self-consciousness or shame or guilt or unworthiness or unattractiveness come up in that moment? Can you be brave and vulnerable enough to allow yourself to be seen in that act of being feminine? Aromatic dressing is a beautiful one you can do every single day. Massaging a nourishing oil like fractionated coconut oil or regular coconut oil or almond oil, sesame oil, jojoba oil, whatever you love, into your body with essential oils mixed in. So after your shower, or after you dry body brush, or if you don't shower, just massaging in. Start at the soles of your feet and rub your toes. Massage all the way up to your face if you use the oils. If you use oil on your face, or you can use whatever skincare. I like to use for Raj System from doTERRA. Geranium is a beautiful one for all of us in our mother phase. Clary sage, very balancing, or whisper blend is just like sensual awakening. It's an aphrodisiac. Goddess baths. So pop some Epsom salts in with added essential oils. If you don't have a bath, have a goddess shower where you take in a beautiful, you know, oil or a shower scrub and you rub it into your body, and then you drop some geranium in the corner of your shower and you let the aroma infuse through the shower that way. And this is the one you all absolutely must do. Create a goddess playlist. Music is so, so powerful for tapping into this yummy state of allowing and receiving and magnetism. So I use Spotify. You can use Apple Music. You can just, I don't know, do it on your USB to have in your car, or burn a CD, or whatever way you listen to music. Make a goddess playlist. So make a playlist of the most feminine, the most flowing, the most sensual music that you can find, and play it in the mornings when you're getting ready for your day, or play it at the end of the day if you are working and you get home from work and you want to shift vibrations into your feminine energy. Put on your goddess playlist and notice how quickly it taps you right in there. So I invite you guys, after our session finishes, let's all post a song that we love in the group so we can get some inspiration to add to our playlist as we're creating it. Find the link on YouTube or something like that and put it in there. And that's it. That's what I wanted to share with you guys tonight. I'm going to jump in and see if there's any questions. Ooh, where can I see? If anyone has any questions, anything they want to add, anything that challenged them or confronted them, or any aha moments or anything like that, feel welcome to pop on your microphone and share, or type it in chat. Don't feel pressured to share. You can just let this all digest. I'm going to make this replay available so you can go back and watch anything, and I'm going to post these slides in the group so that you can go back and see the oils lists and, you know, how to cycle the moon and all of that kind of stuff. So I thank you so much for joining me tonight, being open to something which might be new or something that might be a developing journey for you. I invite you to close your eyes with me again. Let's finish off. Oh, I said I was going to pull actually an oracle card for our collective group. I'm pulling from the heart chakra cards, which is perfect. So this applies if you're on live. This applies if you are watching the replay. Jumped on out. And isn't that just fucking perfect? Shine. Can you see that? So this card is all about that second block I talked about. Allowing yourself to be your most beautiful, feminine, allowing, receiving version of yourself without the fear of it making others small, because actually what it does is it empowers the women around you to shine just as brightly as you do. It actually creates space for them to step into their truth too when you step into yours. So don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid to let yourself shine. I love that card. Let's close our eyes. Take a breath into your belly again. Breathing out. What was your intention at the start of our little session together? Just notice, was it met? Was it not? If it wasn't, you have more questions, send me an email, send me a PM. Take another breath in. Full breath out. I honor absolutely every single one of you, divine goddesses. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being open to new awareness. The more we embody this, the more that we raise the collective vibration, which is so what we need to do. We need to be embodying our divine feminine. We need to allow men or women to be embodying the divine masculine as well. We need to bring this divine balance back. The world needs you to be the most lit up version of yourself. Absolutely. So thank you for being open to that. And let's connect back in the group. Post a Goddessence song for the Goddess playlist. I would love to hear your recommendations, and have a beautiful night. Go and do something sensual and allowing. Go and bathe in the moonlight. Even though it's a new moon, it might be overcast. Just still go out there and energetically soak it in. I love you guys. Be well. Namaste.